There's currently a civil war brewing within the Republican Party with Florida Congressman Byron Donalds basically taking on House Speaker Mike Johnson for lacking, in his words, a strategy to essentially get Donald Trump's agenda past the finish line. Which, let's just pause for a second and acknowledge how crazy that sounds to anyone on the other side of the political aisle, because if you've been watching what's been happening in Trump's first few weeks in office, it seems like he's getting a lot of what he wants in his agenda done. Congress be damned, doesn't really matter. Obviously, the Senate has been confirming his nominees. But in regard to policy, I mean, he's been moving at a pretty rapid pace, even without legislation passing. But nonetheless, right now, House GOP lawmakers are trying to figure out how to handle Trump's policy goals and priorities, including tax cuts, immigration, which Trump seems to be doing just fine without legislation, but nonetheless, regulation for or deregulation in favor of the fossil fuel industry. He wants to permanently raise the debt ceiling, and he wants implementation of spending cuts. Now, Representative Donalds wants to advance these bills as soon as possible, and he feels that Mike Johnson is kind of slow walking, but he also doesn't like the way Mike Johnson intends to pursue this legislation. So Donalds, who is eyeing a run for Florida's governor. He's going to run in that gubernatorial race, has been one of the more vocal members of the GOP against Mike Johnson's strategy. Johnson has a different plan. He'd like to combine all of Donald Trump's policy proposals and items into one massive bill. In his mind, it ensures that that bill will pass because it's got things that some lawmakers like, other things that other lawmakers like. So he thinks that's the best path forward in accomplishing Donald Trump's legislative goals. But Byron Donalds is not on board with that. He would actually like to have Congress vote on two separate bills instead. According to the Daily Beast, the tensions came to light during a closed-door conference meeting on Wednesday, with the Florida Republican accusing Johnson and other GOP leaders of failing to take decisive action on a path forward, despite months of discussions and breakout sessions, sources in the room told the Daily Beast. And the feud is apparently leading to additional cracks within the GOP, and it's getting deeper. The issues are getting larger. One House Republican, for instance, told Politico the following: Byron Donalds is more and more frequently being obnoxious toward the speaker, angry at the time it's taking, parroting Representative Chip Roy. I don't mind making one's point, but the rudeness is uncalled for. So this unnamed House Republican is calling for civility. In response to the criticism he's received, Byron Donalds told the Daily Beast, quote, "Everybody's frustrated. If they think it's rude to have a direct conversation with the leadership as opposed to everybody slapping each other on the back, then so be it. That's not rude, that's being direct. And that's actually laying out exactly what the issues are in front of us and trying to help everybody arrive at a decision." And some GOP lawmakers are backing that sentiment. One GOP lawmaker, for instance, told the Daily Beast, "This isn't rocket science. We're tired of listening sessions over and over and over again, lead, follow, or get out of the way." Another says, people want a roadmap, people want a play call. So they're really displeased with Mike Johnson's leadership. They think that he doesn't really have much of a strategy in place. And as this rift continues to form, it could spell out even more trouble for Mike Johnson. In fact, according to the Daily Beast, Johnson is eyeing the passage of a budget blueprint by the end of February. And the next shutdown, by the way, is quickly approaching. March 14th is the deadline to ensure that there's funding to avoid a government shutdown. Johnson said in a brief interview after the meeting that he assured Donalds that we're moving forward toward the final decision. Separately, House Budget Chair Jody Arrington, Republican from Texas, said talks were in a good spot and that a committee meeting could be called by the end of the week to debate and advance a budget blueprint. And by the way, I should note, you don't have 60 senators in the Senate in order to avoid the legislative filibuster. So they're certainly gonna run into some issues there. I don't know if that's what Mike Johnson is thinking about as he moves forward, but it's much of what we experienced, last year with this rift among the more extreme right wingers in the Republican caucus, and how unhappy and displeased they were with the rest of the Republican caucus. Cenk.
Yeah, I'm on Byron Donalds' side. That might be surprising, but not in terms of his budget priorities. I will totally disagree with those. But in terms of, brother, at some point you got to put together a budget, and then people have to figure out which side they're on. Now, the most important part of the story is that this is the fundamental divide. And so I want to explain that divide to you, because oftentimes we and everyone else will talk about that side or this side, right? But there's many different people and interests on each side. So when you look at the right wing, you've got different actors. You've got the establishment Republicans, which is the overwhelming majority of Congress, and their number one priority is delivering for their donors. Now, their donors have tons of subsidies in there, pork barrel projects, tax cuts, loopholes, all those things, and they need to protect those for their donors, and that's actually where most of the waste, fraud, and abuse are. So now, that's going to be in direct conflict with their voters, which I'm going to get to in a second. So that's the guy, Republicans in Congress. Then Trump cares about him getting money from donors, and so he's going to look out for his big donors like oil companies, Elon Musk, the Adelsons, etc. He also cares about being popular, though. So then that leads us to the voters. On the among the voters on Trump's side, the 77 million Americans that voted, there are actually two different groups, and they're not often characterized this way. There's MAGA, and MAGA has a couple of subdivisions as well, but they're more hardcore Republicans, hardcore Trump supporters. And then there are the moderates, who have gone back and forth, who voted for Obama, who voted for Trump, and then voted for Biden, voted for Trump. And remember, the Democrats had been winning the popular vote, but now Trump won the popular vote. So millions and millions of votes have swung in their direction. And so those are the folks who are upset about immigration, inflation, crime, etc. But bread and butter, normal political issues. They didn't sign up for a revolution. They didn't sign up for let's gut the entire government, throw the education department in the garbage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why, among the reasons why now Elon Musk's popularity as he goes to do those things is cratering exactly as predicted. Okay, another poll out today. And by the way, here's what's really interesting about the last poll. He's down to 13% strong approval in the country in terms of his actions that he's taking. That's not surprising. But among Republicans, he's down to 26%. He used to be at 47 just a couple of months ago after they won, down to 26. So there's your Republican moderates, and I don't mean moderates in the old mainstream media kind of way. I mean the people that I described a minute ago, right? The Democrats aren't getting the job done. Let me go over and see if Trump can get the job done. Those folks are leaving the building as we speak. Now, MAGA doesn't believe that because they think that everything is MAGA, right? Because they're in their own bubble. But they're losing tons of moderate voters as they go to do these extreme things. Now, when they go to the budget, that is where it is irreconcilable. Either you're gonna hack the living crap out of the budget as MAGA really, really wants. And guys, I tell you honestly, when MAGA's on our side, they really are anti-war. I also tell you when MAGA's not on our side. And on this, they are not on our side. They wanna cut the budget as much as humanly possible. And they're not shy about it, they're very clear about it, etc. But they don't realize that a lot of the people who voted for Trump don't want that. And so now you've got all these different factors, and MAGA's gonna push Trump to cut, but then his moderate voters are gonna leave the building and his polling is gonna go down. So what's he gonna do? I don't know. And in fact, that's exactly why Speaker Johnson is going, which way is the wind blowing? Which way is the wind blowing? Can I protect my donors still, or do I have to give up some of my donors? How am I supposed to cut all this thing? I can't cut Social Security and Medicare. They will all get voted out of office. But if I don't cut Medicare or Medicaid, I can't do a quarter of the things that we promised the voters about how we were gonna cut trillions of dollars. There's no way that it's even possible. So he's got an absolutely impossible task. And Donalds is saying, brother, either way, you're gonna have to do something. And another anonymous guy is the most right, where he says, either lead or get out of the way. And it looks like Johnson is pretty weak, and so that's gonna create issues. But at the end of the day, whatever budget he proposes, they're going to lose a lot of people. and you're gonna have a huge fight.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.